Since ancient times, divine beings have created countless universes. Known as absolutes, they endlessly repeated the cycle of creation, indulging in and pursuing eternity. In this process, the various materials, souls, and laws emerged. However, as boredom settled in, the absolutes sought new forms of entertainment. To satisfy their curiosity, they orchestrated wars, finding amusement in the chaos they had set into motion. To them, destruction was mere bought spectacle, countless creations forced into endless battles, perishing for their entertainment. Then, an incident occurred. An absolute was murdered by their own creations. The event drew the attention of other absolutes from different dimensions, all turning their gaze toward the world that had lost its master. The death of one of their own at the hands of their creations was an event unlike any before. Yet, the absolutes felt no sorrow or concern for the loss. Their attention remained fixed on a single, more intriguing matter. The power left behind, now without an owner, would belong to whoever claimed it first. A man announced that he had been accepted into Hanguk Art University. His friends reacted with disbelief, questioning how someone like him could have gotten in. Another friend, feeling discouraged, muttered about retaking the exam. Meanwhile, the man burst into laughter, overwhelmed with relief. Finally, he was free from this hell. Another classmate turned to him and said, offering congratulations, surprised that Sung Suho had actually been accepted. Expressing surprise, the classmate admitted they hadn't expected Sung Suho to have that kind of talent, and asked how long he had been drawing. Sung Suho, unfazed, remained wary of Kim Seong-chul's intentions, anticipating whatever he had in mind this time. The classmate quickly corrected him, stating that he was not Kim Seong-chul, but Lee Yun-chul. Sung Suho, unfazed, simply acknowledged the mistake. Lee Yun-chul responded with frustration, complaining that his plan to dominate the school had been ruined because of Sung Suho. However, Sung Suho remained indifferent, casually remarking that thanks to him, Lee Yun-chul could now graduate safely. Meanwhile, a girl classmate whispered to those nearby, noting that Lee Yun-chul was making a fuss once again. The girl classmate questioned why Lee Yun-chul was acting this way so close to their graduation. Another classmate agreed, acknowledging the unnecessary fuss he was making. A classmate couldn't help but wonder why Lee Yun-chul continued to bully someone who was trying to stay positive, even after losing both of his parents. Lee Yun-chul lunged forward to attack, but Sung Suho reacted swiftly. He jumped, grabbed Lee Yun-chul's head, and drove his knee into his face with precision. As Lee reeled from the impact, Sung Suho calmly told him to stay quiet, at least until they graduated. Sung Suho's eyes widened as he reacted to the situation, sensing something unexpected. Lee Yun-chul, his expression twisting in disbelief. A blue flame flared around his clenched fist as he prepared to strike back. Lee Yun-chul lunged forward, his aura-covered fist rushing toward Sung Suho as he scoffed at the previous attack, dismissing it as nothing. Sung Suho swiftly dodged the attack, causing Lee Yun-chul's fist to miss its target and slam into a locker with a loud crash. Sung Suho was momentarily stunned, his eyes widening in surprise. The girl classmate watched in disbelief, unable to process what had just happened. Lee Yun-chul stood tall while Sung Suho sat on the ground, still processing the impact. 2 years later, at Hanguk Art University, Sung Suho, now a second-year college student, walked down the street when he noticed something unusual. A man with a microphone stood nearby, making an announcement. Every class in the main building would be moved to the side building, and students were instructed to go there. The announcer's voice grew more urgent as he continued, warning everyone to stay away. Hunters had entered the gate to begin their raid, and for safety, no one else was allowed near. A man in a coat asked the announcer how long the hunters had been inside. The announcer replied that it had been 8 hours and expected the D-grade raid to end soon. The announcer continued, warning everyone to step back if they weren't hunters, as it was dangerous. Sung Suho remained silent, lost in deep thought. His thoughts drifted to the recurring phenomenon, another gate. 3 years ago, gates began appearing in the world, changing everything. These portals connected to dungeons, and for a certain time, monsters would emerge, threatening the lives of people. For humanity's survival, people began to change as well. Individuals with special abilities, such as magic, started to emerge, a phenomenon known as awakening. In this chaotic world, Wu Jinchul founded the Hunter Association, uniting the awakened. With hunters as an official profession, managing the chaos became easier. Nowadays, people are divided into awakened hunters and non-awakened. Some struggle like ants for rewards, while others have them handed to them effortlessly. In this system, the ant bitterly realizes their limits. No matter how hard the non-awakened work, they can never match even an E-rank awakened. If hunters fail to stop the gates, the world will end. In short, the non-awakened cannot survive without the awakened. That's why he felt grateful to the hunters. Thanks to them, non-awakened people like him could live peacefully. At the same time, he felt uneasy, questioning if he was simply growing accustomed to having nothing. Missing his parents and relying on others for survival, he recalled a time when he felt capable of achieving anything, but everything he had was lost, leaving only a void filled with helplessness. His mother often said he looked like his father. He wondered how his father would have handled this helpless situation. Then he heard someone call his name, Suho. He turned to see his art instructor approaching. With a slight smile, the instructor remarked on how focused he seemed today. The instructor observed Sung Suho's focused expression as he sketched. Glancing at the drawing, they noted its unusual form, resembling an ant, yet distinctly human-like. Sung Suho stared at his own work, confusion creeping in. He couldn't understand why he had drawn it in the first place. Meanwhile, at the gate, a man excitedly announced the hunters' return. As the hunters emerged, they commented on the relaxed atmosphere, a clear sign that the subjugation had been successful. The man praised Hunter Kim Jong-soo, who confirmed the successful subjugation and mentioned important information for the Hunter Association. Hunter Kim reported encountering a new type of beast. It was a humanoid beast that spewed blue flames from its eyes and mouth, attacking with claws and teeth, though it wasn't very strong. Hunter Kim noted a slight scratch from the attack, but saw no issues. The beast, appearing since the gates opened, was thankfully not dangerous. The man asked Hunter Kim to write a brief report on the subjugation. Suddenly, blue flames emerged from Kim's wound, leaving him in shock. Hunter Kim stood frozen, unresponsive. Concerned, the man called out to him, but before he could react, blue flames erupted from Kim's eyes and mouth. In an instant, Kim lunged forward, attacking the man. The other hunters stood in shock, unable to comprehend what they had just witnessed. Hunter Kim lunged at a female hunter who recoiled in shock. She recognized the eerie blue dot flames engulfing him. It was the same as the beast from the dungeon. Panic erupted as the other hunters fled in fear, while Hunter Kim, consumed by the blue flames, continued his relentless attacks. In the art classroom, Sung Suho heard distant screams from outside. His classmates looked around in confusion, alarmed by the sudden commotion. Shock spread through the classroom as they watched people attacking each other, their eyes glowing blue, just like a beast. A classmate muttered in fear, wondering if a dungeon break had occurred. Panic set in as some urged everyone to run, while others insisted they stay and wait for the hunters to handle the situation. The students turned to Instructor Lim, pleading for help, reminding him that he was an awakener. However, he hesitated, admitting that he was only an E rank. Sung Suho stood frozen in shock as he spotted a man engulfed in blue flames atop a nearby building. In an instant, the figure leaped toward them. Sung Suho shouted for everyone to run as Hunter Kim, his eyes glowing blue, crashed through the window and fell to the ground. The students stood in shock as Sung Suho bolted, shouting for everyone to run away. A classmate lay on the ground, their legs weak and powerless, desperately reaching out for help. Sung Suho hesitated, then shut his eyes and ran, shouting that he would call a hunter. Frustration filled Sung Suho as he realized calling a hunter was no different from leaving her to die. As a non-awakened, he felt powerless. But blaming the situation wouldn't change anything. He had to find a way to act. He wondered what his father would have done in a situation like this. Hunter Kim, engulfed in blue flames, stared down at the student who trembled, crying in fear. Hunter Kim lunged at the helpless student who trembled in fear. Without hesitation, Sung Suho grabbed a fire extinguisher and struck Hunter Kim. His mind raced, searching for an answer. What would his father have done in this moment? He found himself in a world that felt like a game, an endless cycle of battle and growth. With each fight, the monsters grew stronger, adapting to his every strike. Yet he pressed on, relying only on his own strength. There was no need for weapons or allies. His fists were enough. As the monsters grew stronger, he was forced to push himself beyond his limits, constantly evolving to keep up. Battle after battle he endured, overcoming countless challenges. At last, after an endless struggle, he reached the final level. Although an enemy, the final boss's strength was not just enviable, but worthy of respect. With every strike, a strange familiarity grew, an unshakable sense of recognition. As the battle raged on, the truth became clear. This was no ordinary opponent. This was his father. His father's image took shape in the dream, strong, dependable, and unwavering. It was as if his mind had forged the ultimate opponent, a reflection of the man he had always seen as unbeatable. Sung Suho grabbed the fire extinguisher, thoughts of his father lingering in his mind. If his dad were in this absurd situation. Without hesitation, he stepped into the room and smashed the extinguisher toward Hunter Kim, engulfed in blue fire. His thoughts continued. His father would have done something like this too, right? Sung Suho's mind raced. What should he do now? He had heard that attacks from non-awakened people without magic power were useless against demonic beasts. Yet, without a plan, he had rushed in anyway. Sung Suho's eyes widened in confusion. Everything around him was still, frozen in place. A strange sensation washed over him. Had time stopped? A floating notification appeared before him. Notification. Secret quest. Courage of the powerless. Conditions met. Another message followed. Notification. You have earned the right to become a player. Do you accept? Sung Suho's mind raced. This situation, it felt familiar, just like that dream. If he could become like he was in that dream, was there any reason to refuse? In this desperate situation, there was only one choice. He tapped, I accept. A new notification appeared. Notification, congratulations on becoming a player. Quest reward notice. Quest reward, secret quest. Courage of the powerless. Blessing, Grand Archmage. Candiaru's blessing. Grand Archmage Candiaru has gifted you a special spell. As long as Candiaru's blessing is with you, you will all Notification. The system supports the growth of the players. This is not a dream. Please note that you only have one life. Status window. Name, Sung Suho. Level 1. Class, none. Title, none. Health, 100. Mana, 10. All stats, 10. Active skills, Power of the Ruler, Levier 1. Sung Suho's thoughts raced. This status window, just like in a game. As expected, a new notification appeared. Quest notice. Quest, tutorial, defeat the mist burn to level up. Progress, level 1 out of 2. One of the mist burns collapsed after his attack, but before he could react, a new presence loomed ahead. Standing before him was a D-rank awakened mist burn. Time began to move again. Realizing the danger, Sung Suho urged his classmate to run. Without hesitation, she responded and quickly fled. Sung Suho's eyes narrowed, those name tags above their heads, clear and unmistakable. The enemies were 2 non-awakened civilians and 1 hunter, all transformed into beasts. The Mistburns lunged, launching an attack towards Sung Suho. A surge of excitement rushed through him. He had truly awakened. With newfound strength, he swung the fire extinguisher, smashing it into the Mistburns with full force. Sung Suho tossed the fire extinguisher aside with a quick, "sorry," before launching a punch instead. His fist connected with overwhelming force, sending the enemy crashing through the wall. Stunned, he stared at his own hand. One hit? Sung Suho swiftly dodged the attack and countered with a powerful punch. A series of notifications appeared. Notification: you have defeated a non-awakened mist burn. Notification: your level has increased. Notification: you have completed the quest tutorial. Notification: your quest completion reward has arrived. Notification: would you like to check your reward? Accept or decline? Sung Suho's thoughts raced. This confirmed everything. With newfound strength, he launched an attack at the D-rank awakened mist burn, striking with full force. However, the enemy remained standing. It had withstood the blow. The D-rank mist burn lunged, its claws tearing across Sung Suho's body. Pain flared as he slid back, barely keeping his balance. A chilling realization hit him. If he was injured by it, he would turn into a beast. He had just awakened, only to face the risk of becoming a monster himself. Notification: an abnormal status has been detected in your soul. Notification: the abnormal status has been removed due to the effect of longevity. Sung Suho's thoughts lingered on the notification. Longevity? Come to think of it, he recalled, seeing it in the status window earlier. Before he could process it further, the D-rank Mistburn struck again, its attack slamming him into the ground with immense force. Sung Suho's thoughts raced. Being weaker than a D-rank beast meant he was only E-rank. He had finally awakened, but now he had to worry about ranks? There had to be something he could do. Then a realization struck him. Oh, accept reward. A notification appeared. Quest reward notice. The following rewards are available. Reward 1, distributable points, poly 5. Reward 2, strength stat. Points poly 3, strength, 11 to 14. Sung Suho delivered a powerful punch to the D-rank Mistburn's face, sending the monster flying. Yet despite the impact, it quickly regained its footing. Without hesitation, he launched another attack. But the Mistburn countered, striking back with force. Even with his increased strength, he still couldn't overpower it. His thoughts raced. If this isn't enough, then there's only one choice. Without hesitation, he allocated all his reward points into strength. Strength. 14. 19. Sung Suho clenched his fist, feeling the raw power surging through him. No awakened had ever leveled up like this before. From the moment of awakening, a rank was determined, fixed, unchanging. No one had ever surpassed their assigned rank. But who decided these ranks? Who deemed others non-awakened? If he had gained the power to break free from that cursed system, then he would use it. The D-rank Mistburn crashed through the wall from Sung Suho's powerful punch. Without giving it a chance to recover, he followed up with another devastating strike, sending the beast plunging through the wall. With one final blow to its face, the Mistburn was launched through the air, completely overpowered. A notification appeared. Notification: you have defeated a D-rank awakened Mistburn. Notification: your level has increased. Notification: your level has increased. Notification: your level has increased. Sung Suho looked at his hand, his breath steadying. He had won. Staring at his fingers, he processed the reality. He had finally become an awakened. Now, with this power, he could save people and end this disaster himself. Another awakened mist burn sprinted toward Sung Suho, closing the distance fast before leaping at him. As he braced himself, his thoughts flickered to the situation outside. Just how bad was it? Before he could finish the thought, his eyes widened in shock. A C-rank awakened mist burn was already mid-attack, its sword slicing through the air, aimed straight at him.
A sudden announcement echoed throughout the city. Dungeon break detected at Korean National University of Arts. Residents in the vicinity are advised to evacuate immediately. The army stood helpless at the dungeon break, forced to watch the chaos unfold. Desperation grew as they awaited the Hunter Association's reinforcements. Assigning a B rank or higher hunter was taking time. Some soldiers questioned it wasn't this A.D rank dungeon, but the Hunter Association suspected the hunters had been infected. A soldier scrolled through the screen, stopping at a C-rank hunter. The realization struck, even a C-rank hunter might be infected. The awakened Mistburn strode toward Sung Suho, its presence unsettling. Suho steadied himself, feeling a brief moment of tension. The situation was growing more dangerous by the second. Sung Suho assessed the C-rank awakened Mistburn, his mind racing. Unlike the others, this one carried a weapon. It was clearly more dangerous, a step above the rest. Sung Suho considered his chances. He had leveled up recently. Maybe this fight was possible. As the C-rank awakened Mistburn struck, he swiftly dodged, narrowly avoiding the attack. Sung Suho's eyes widened in shock. This was insane. The awakened Mistburn swung its sword again. Reacting quickly, Suho hurled a fire dot extinguisher, but in an instant, the blade sliced it clean in half. White powder exploded into the air, clouding the rue. Taking the chance, Suho sprinted toward the door. Fighting was impossible. The ranks of the awakened existed for a reason. This gap in strength was overwhelming. All he could do was hold out until another hunter arrived. The awakened Mistburn stepped through the door, following Sung Suho as he ran. Then, it suddenly smiled, its gaze shifting toward something else. Suho turned, his heart sinking. Oh, no way. The Mistburn was staring at three girls stranded on the rooftop. The three girls waited on the rooftop, hoping a hunter would come. But doubt lingered. Would the hunter really arrive in time? The awakened Mistburn attacked, mercilessly striking the girls on the rooftop. Sung Suho watched in horror as they were slaughtered. Terror turned to rage. His eyes burned with fury. Without hesitation, he leaped through the window, chasing after the Mistburn. There was no time to wait for a hunter. Sung Suho launched a kick, striking the Mistburn with full force. He had to stop it. Without hesitation, he followed up with another powerful kick, landing at the back of its neck. The Mistburn countered with a swift sword slash, but Suho dodged just in time. He knew one hit meant death, but he couldn't let this monster roam free. He had to finish it. Suho unleashed a rapid barrage of punches on the awakened Mistburn, his body flowing effortlessly as he swiftly dodged every slash of its sword. Suho followed with another powerful punch, his eyes burning with determination. Without pause, he drove another blow forward, seizing Mistburn's head and smashing his knee into its skull. He didn't expect the sudden counter. Mistburn's sword slashed into his side, sending him crashing into the wall. Blood spilled from his mouth as shock flickered in his eyes. Suho sat on the ground, battered and exhausted, as the Mistburn loomed over him. His health bar flickered 1 out of 140. Barely hanging on, he couldn't help but wonder, was the system refusing to let him fall? The Mistburn stood there, smiling, its eerie grin unwavering. Then, a faint cracking sound echoed through the air. Sung Suho refused to back down, clenching his fists despite his injuries. The cracking grew louder. Something was changing. Without warning, the Mistburn lunged, launching a devastating attack. Fatigue. 99. Sung Suho staggered, his vision blurring. His body gave out, and he collapsed to the ground. The cracking sound intensified then. Suddenly, The Mistburn fell lifelessly, its body shattering apart. Meanwhile, another Mistburn lunged at a terrified cleaner who screamed for help. Before the attack could land, the Mistburn suddenly collapsed dead in an instant. Suddenly, shadowy claws ripped through the air, striking down every Mistburn in the hallways instantly. At the same moment, the Mistburns in the streets collapsed without warning, their bodies falling lifelessly. All the Mistburns in the town had been wiped out in an instant. The soldiers stood frozen, their faces filled with confusion at the unbelievable sight before them. In the midst of the devastation, a dark shadow knelt before Sung Soo-ho. The shadow Baru knelt before Sung Soo-ho, stating that it had been a while since it last greeted the young monarch. A young boy sketched an ant, followed by various types of ants across the paper. Among the drawings, he noticed something, a shadow ant's foot. The shadow ant gazed at the drawing, its voice filled with emotion, expressing how touched it was. Suddenly, Sung Soo-ho awoke from the dream, lying in a hospital bed. The words slipped from his lips. Ant? At the hospital, Soo-ho spoke on the phone, the voice on the other end filled with concern. The caller worried about the sudden disaster, offering to assign awakened bodyguards to protect him in such turmoil. Soo-ho politely reassured him, declining the offer. He was okay, uncle. 2 days had passed since the incident. The government's response to the Korea National University of Arts disaster had shaken the entire country, drawing widespread attention due to the numerous casualties and unusual circumstances surrounding it. The discovery of Mistburn, a monster capable of infecting hunters and turning them into demons, caused panic. Despite the incident happening in the heart of the city, the Hunter Association's delayed response drew heavy criticism. Even after the hunters arrived, a mystery remained. All the Mistburns had already been killed by an unknown force. Witnesses claimed that those turned into demons suddenly exploded before their eyes. Soo-ho turned off the television, confirming to himself that his awakening was not just a dream. A status window appeared showing his name, Seong Soo-ho, level 5, proof that he grew stronger with each level up. Confused about how he survived his injuries from the C-rank awakened Mistburn, a voice echoed, explaining that Baru had taken care of the pests. Soo-ho glanced under his bed, his eyes widening as he saw Baru hidden beneath it. Baru emerged from the shadows, his voice trembling as he greeted the young monarch after so long. Baru trembled with emotion, overwhelmed by how wonderfully the young monarch had grown, his eyes shining with devotion. As scattered pieces came together, memories resurfaced. Soo-ho recalled the black creature from his childhood, an ant that once stayed by his side. Why had he forgotten it until now? Baru declared he had crossed dimensions to reunite with the young monarch. Soo-ho stared at Baru, confusion swirling in his mind. Why had he lived with these black creatures in his childhood? Countless questions flooded his thoughts. The creature seemed much smaller than he remembered. Baru's diminished form was the result of expending vast magical power while crossing dimensions, leaving behind his once imposing figure. The system window classified him as a minion, a title far beneath the noble warrior he prided himself to be. His frustration echoed in a sharp, piercing cry. Soo-ho slipped on his slippers, acknowledging his recovery was thanks to Baru. The small creature, despite his shrunken form, claimed to be a capable healer. Baru revealed his purpose was to break the seal placed on Soo-ho, but witnessing Soo-ho break it himself left the loyal servant deeply impressed. Soo-ho wondered if the seal was connected to the dream he had. Baru explained the dream was a real experience, not just imagination. Soo-ho was much stronger in the past, but the great shadow monarch Sung Jinwoo sealed his memories and powers, wishing for him to live an ordinary life. Soo-ho realized his father was connected to Baru, the creature from his childhood, the same father who left home. Baru corrected him, revealing that Sung Jinwoo didn't leave home. He went to the universe. Soo-ho realized his father, the one who left home, was connected to Baru. However, Baru corrected him, revealing that Sung Jinwoo didn't leave home. He went to the universe. Soo-ho's confusion deepened at the mention of the universe, prompting Baru to explain. The Great Shadow Monarch was waging a war across the universe against invaders seeking to conquer the world. Suho slowly realized his father was out there, protecting the world. Baru revealed that Suho's father was battling the Itarim, gods from the outer universe. The Itarim sent their apostles to invade Earth. On his journey, Baru had slain countless enemies. The appearance of gates and demons was likely a consequence of this war. Suho assumed his mother went with his father, as she also vanished the day he disappeared. However, Baru confirmed she did not accompany him. Baru was shocked by the news of Lady Heian's disappearance, suspecting the apostles of Itarim had set a wicked trap on Earth. Suho's thoughts lingered. His parents' absence was undoubtedly because of Itarim. Baru suggested the only way to reunite with Suho's parents was for him to grow stronger. With the Great Shadow Monarch unable to return due to the ongoing war, Suho would need to find and rescue Lady Heian himself. Baru raised the Shadow Key, its power radiating. The path to level up had begun. Notification window appeared, signaling the arrival of a quest. Quest: Trial of Shadow. You are the son of the Great Shadow Monarch. Currently, all your innate skills are sealed. To wield that great power, you must prove your own worth. Enter the Shadow Dungeon and demonstrate your qualification. Suho grasped the Shadow Key as a notification appeared. Item: Key to Dungeon. Type: Allows entry to Shadow Dungeons. Usage: Can be used on Sung Suho's shadow. Baru instructed Suho to insert the key into his shadow. As Suho followed the command, the Shadow Dungeon gate opened. Baru observed from behind, silently urging the young monarch to claim all the power that belonged to him. Suho struggled to grasp the truth. The universe, the war with gods, and the Shadow Monarch felt like distant fantasies. But the possibility of reunion ignited a fire within him. If strength was the key, he would level up endlessly, no matter how long it took. In Baru's thoughts, the image of his lord, Sung Jinwoo, resurfaced. Jinwoo had entrusted him with a vital mission to break Sung Suho's seal. The Itarim's invasion threatened Earth, and Suho's sealed power and memories needed to be restored. Jinwoo granted Baru permission to act at his own discretion based on the situation. With unwavering loyalty, Baru vowed to watch over the young monarch's growth until the day he could protect the world. As Sung Suho stepped into the Shadow Gate, the portal vanished behind him, sealing the path. The eerie silence engulfed him. Baru observed from outside, recognizing the place, the land of the dead, where only those granted permission by the master could enter. This was the Shadow Dungeon, a realm where Suho would face trials to awaken the power hidden within him. Suho scanned the Shadow Dungeon, its ruined cityscape stretching into the distance. The place felt oddly familiar, though he couldn't recall why. A notification appeared. Quest: Survive for 4 hours to prove yourself. The residents would never acknowledge a weak ruler. Survived for the required time to prove yourself. Suho realized he had to survive for 4 hours. Baru's presence signaled him to stay alert. The trial began, with Baru's presence signaling its start. Confusion flickered in Suho's mind at the unexpected test. A monster lunged from behind, but Suho sensed it in time, swiftly kicking it away. His heart raced from the sudden attack. A goblin sat on the floor, its sharp eyes flickering. Suho recognized it as a scout. Baru's presence warned him, where there was one, more were likely nearby. Suho prepared to eliminate the goblin before it could alert others. Yet, Baru's presence cautioned him. Goblins were weak, but not foolish enough to wander alone without a plan. Suho crushed the goblin with his hand, triggering a notification. Item obtained: Goblin's Stone Axe. He gripped the weapon and smashed the goblin's head. Another notification flashing. You've defeated the Goblin Scout. Observing the defeated enemy, Suho noticed that stronger opponents had colored names. Baru silently acknowledged the observation. Suho and Baru heard a distant sound, the faint echo of a horn. The goblin had called for reinforcements. Suho sensed the presence of Scout nearby. Footsteps echoed through the ruins as a goblin centurion and goblin decurion appeared, their piercing gazes fixed on him. Suho hoped for Baru's assistance, but Baru replied that distance prevented him from replenishing mana, forcing him to conserve strength. Joining the fight would also lower Suho's experience gain. Realizing this, Suho understood Baru wouldn't be much help. The goblins lunged at Suho, weapons drawn. He steadied himself, a sharp glint in his eyes, ready to test his strength alone. Suho smashed the axe into one goblin's head, then swiftly struck another with a follow-up blow. Without hesitation, he hurled the axe toward the approaching goblins. A strange sensation surged through him, as if an unseen force extended from his body. The thought crossed his mind. The skills in his status window felt like an invisible hand guiding him. A notification appeared. Skill, Ruler's Authority, Love Sucks. You can physically influence objects without directly touching them. Suho caught the arrow mid-air, his sharp gaze locking onto the hidden enemy. Realizing an archer was among them, he sent the arrow flying back with precision. The projectile pierced the goblin archer, killing it instantly. Baru observed Suho's adaptability with admiration. The young monarch's growth mirrored the extraordinary birth of heroes from ancient myths. Suho wielded Ruler's Authority, a power inherited from the monarch, a force meant to bring destruction. In a peaceful world, such power was nothing but a burden. But with the apostles of Itarim invading Earth, the young monarch's true strength had finally begun to awaken. A notification appeared. You have leveled up. Suho sensed his strength increasing, but he quickly realized the ruler's authority could only lift objects weighing around 10 kiloliters. Before he could test it further, a goblin crept behind him and stabbed his back. The goblin snarled, but Suho clenched his fist and delivered a powerful punch to its face, sending it crashing to the ground. Suho stood surrounded by goblins, their numbers closing in. Baru's silent concern lingered nearby. A goblin with a red aura stepped forward. The goblin leader, radiating killing intent. His health remained at 160 from 190. Blood dripped from Suho's wound as he pulled the dagger from his back. Suho gripped the bloody dagger, charging it with power. Without hesitation, he hurled it through the group of goblins, the blade cutting through the air, its target locked onto the goblin leader. The dagger pierced the goblin leader's body, sinking deep into its flesh. A surge of exhilaration filled Suho's mind. He felt more alive now than during his lifeless days. The group of goblins swarmed him, their blades slashing from all sides. Suho defended himself while striking back with his dagger, but his health dropped from 160 to 118. Another wave of attacks followed, forcing him to endure the pain as his health fell further to 84. Suho's eyes burned with determination as he unleashed another powerful attack, cutting through the goblins. His health plummeted to 53 from 84, but he showed no signs of stopping. The goblin group charged at him once more, but Suho steadied himself, ready to strike back with unwavering resolve. A notification flickered before Suho's eyes. Skill, Resilience Level 1 has been learned. Another notification followed. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. The goblins lay scattered, their bodies motionless. Suho sat atop a rusted car. A notification appeared before him. Time remaining, 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. You have completed the quest. Baru's voice echoed with pride, his unwavering faith never shaken. The loyal shadow praised Suho for overcoming the trial alone. Suho, catching his breath, couldn't help but remark on Baru's lack of assistance until the very end. A notification flickered before him. Your quest completion reward has arrived. Without hesitation, Suho commanded to check the rewards. Another notification appeared. You will receive the following rewards. Rune Stone, Shadow Extraction. Suho examined the rune stone, curiosity flickering in his eyes. The thought crossed his mind. By using it, he could acquire the shadow extraction skill. Baru's voice brimmed with excitement, acknowledging the young monarch's newfound power. As Suho reflected on the battle, he recalled unlocking another skill during the fight. The system had granted him more than just level-ups. His awakened abilities were evolving. A notification displayed the skill's details. Skill, Resilience Level 1. You possess an indomitable level of resilience. Physical defense is increased by 20%. Suho noticed his wounds fully healed, feeling like a cheat character compared to his past self. Beru explained the system was a support mechanism used by the monarch to protect his heir. What Suho once thought was weakness was actually the birth of the ultimate shadow heir. Suho accepted the reward, and a notification appeared. Runestone Shadow Extraction. You can absorb the skill by breaking the runestone. Without hesitation, Suho crushed the runestone in his hand. Skill, Shadow Extraction has been learned. Shadow Extraction extract mana from a lifeless body to create a shadow soldier. The failure rate increases based on the target's stats and time of death. Number of extractable shadows, 0 out of 3. Suho realized his newfound power could create shadow soldiers. Beru explained that shadow extraction was the very essence of the authority that once shaped the monarch Sung Jinwoo, a power capable of turning corpses into loyal soldiers like himself. Suho pondered if his skill resembled that of a necromancer, but he realized to command soldiers, he needed to hunt them first, limiting him to those weaker than himself. Summon-type skills were often seen as unfavorable in the hunter industry. He pointed his hand toward the goblin leader's corpse, activating shadow extraction. A notification appeared. Please specify the command for the shadow extraction skill. Suho sighed at the thought of coming up with a separate command, finding it tedious. With his eyes burning and lightning-infused shadows crackling from his fingertips, he stretched his hand toward the corpse and declared, "Arise!" Suho commanded, "Arise." Dark shadows swirled around the goblin leader's corpse, binding it to Suho's will. The lifeless body rose, now reborn as his shadow soldier. Observing the result, Suho muttered to himself, the skill wasn't as impressive as he had imagined. Beru explained that newly extracted shadow soldiers were often weaker than they were in life. Suho glanced at the smaller goblin leader, questioning if they also shrank. Beru confirmed with a calm tone, assuring him the difference in strength was only slight. Suho noticed the shadow soldier would disappear after a day, leaving him disappointed. Beru suggested using shadow storage, but Suho admitted he didn't have that skill yet. Beru explained that shadow abilities were influenced by intelligence stats and level progression, reassuring Suho that the skill would become incredible in time. Suho sighed, telling Beru not to feel so down about it. Suho's stomach growled loudly. Realizing he hadn't eaten in 2 days, Suho asked how to leave the dungeon, and Beru explained he could exit any time using the shadow dungeon key. With hunger gnawing at him, Suho decided to grab something to eat first. Beru nodded respectfully. A notification appeared. Would you like to exit the shadow dungeon? Suho's face blushed with delight, eyes sparkling like twinkling stars as he enjoyed his meal. Suho couldn't believe how delicious hospital food could taste, relishing every bite. Beru, ever dutiful, interrupted his moment of bliss. He explained their next steps. They were assigned 3 missions. The first, protect the Earth from otherworldly beasts. Suho realized their task meant entering dungeons and hunting beasts. Beru confirmed, explaining that as Suho's level increased, he would grow stronger, making Earth safer, just like the monarch once did. Beru revealed their second mission, to find the missing Lady Hyain by any means necessary. Suho asked if there was a way to locate his mother's whereabouts, but Beru explained that hunting beasts might eventually lead to a clue. Suho acknowledged they had no choice but to enter dungeons. Finally, Beru shared the third mission, to help Suho regain his strength, expressing his desire to show the true power he once wielded against the monarch. Suho asked how to regain his strength, and Beru explained he could absorb magical power and knowledge from consuming targets, though it was far less efficient than before he became a shadow soldier. Without Suho's magic to sustain him, this was the only option. Understanding the situation, Suho realized their path once again led to dungeons. Suho finished his meal and said, "Let's prepare then." Baru said to enter a dungeon, you need a hunter qualification. Go to the Hunter Association and get your magical power measured. Suho wondered about the magical power measurement, knowing he was an awakener who continuously leveled up. Curiosity sparked in his mind. What grade would he receive? A thought crossed him. What if he ended up with an S rank? The measurement lady announced Suho's magical power level, 46. He was classified as an E rank awakener, the weakest rank. Suho left the Hunter Association building, his expression clouded. Beru explained that a hunter's rank was based on magical power, making it natural for Suho's rank to be lower since his strength relied heavily on power stats. Despite the reassurance, Suho couldn't help but doubt. Could an E rank like him truly protect Earth with just shadow abilities? Beru reminded him. He possessed something no other hunter had. Level ups. Suho recalled how E-rank and F-rank hunters were rarely recruited for expeditions, making it difficult to even enter dungeons. Frustration flickered in his eyes, until a sudden realization struck him. His eyes widened as he thought, there might be one way. Dungeon raids operated through a systematic division of labor. The assault team led the charge, eliminating beasts. The recovery team followed behind, collecting beast carcasses, while the mining team extracted resources from the dungeon's depths. Among these roles, only the recovery and mining teams allowed E-rank hunters to participate. At the dungeon site, hunters were busy mining resources. Suho wiped his sweat and sighed. Grateful for the chance, he thought about how this opportunity came through the only awakener he knew. The one who helped him was Lee Do-kyun, his former training instructor and art department assistant at Korea University of the Arts. Suho's connection with Lee Do-kyun became his unexpected ticket into the dungeon. Even as a low-ranked awakener, Suho felt grateful to have an awakener senior nearby, knowing it was thanks to Lee Do-kyun's help that he could work in the dungeon. Do-kyun, haunted by guilt, remembered the art incident at Korea University of the Arts. As the only awakener present, fear had driven him to run away, leaving others behind. The regret of his actions weighed heavily on him. Suho reassured him, understanding that E-rank awakeners were advised by the Hunter Association to flee from beasts. Do-kyun had only followed the guidelines, doing what was expected of someone at their level. Do-kyun's eyes widened in surprise upon hearing Suho's E-rank status. Suho calmly revealed his magical power level was only 46, a number considered low even among E-rank awakeners. Do-kyun's shock deepened as he realized Suho's power was higher than his own. Do-kyun's memory flashed back to the incident at the art department rooftop. While fleeing, he vaguely recalled seeing Suho fighting a beast. Doubt filled his mind. Had he really witnessed that, or was it just his fear playing tricks on him? Do-kyun remarked that if an E-rank truly survived by charging at a beast, it was even more impressive. Baru's calm voice agreed, declaring the young monarch exceptional. Baru's calm voice agreed, declaring the young monarch exceptional. As Do-kyun turned toward Baru, his eyes widened in shock, sitting down while shouting in fear. A beast? Suho let out a sigh, glancing at Baru and questioning his sudden appearance. Baru remained composed, explaining that the monarch was still as weak as a larva, so he needed to stay close to protect him and ensure his safety. Do-kyun asked if Suho awakened as a summoner-type hunter. Suho nodded, saying it seemed so. Do-kyun said many E-rank hunters don't have skills, so he was lucky. He mentioned his skill, running. Suho smirked, saying that must be why Do-kyun escaped so well before. Do-kyun looked downcast, but Suho smiled and reassured him, saying he was just kidding. Baru thought, as expected of the young monarch, his mental attacks are truly devastating. Suho thought, come to think of it, this is my first time in a dungeon other than the Shadow dungeon. I wonder if the assault team is hunting beasts up ahead. Wolf corpses scattered across the ground. One hunter sighed, saying the dungeon felt empty. Another agreed, noting that only wolf beasts had been appearing. A third hunter encouraged them, reminding that some carcasses might hold magical crystals, so they had to keep working hard until the dungeon's end. A hunter signaled to the captain, pointing toward a narrow side path where something seemed hidden. The captain said, "Look at this." The assault team stepped closer, their gazes fixed on the discovery, examining the unusual sight. In silence, the assault team scanned the mysterious ruin hidden deep within the dungeon. Its weathered walls hinted at an ancient origin. With no beasts detected by their skills, confusion settled among the hunters. The unusual structure raised questions. Why was it here? Some wondered if treasure lay hidden inside instead of a powerful boss monster, pushing their curiosity to investigate further. The captain stared in disbelief at the mysterious weapon glimmering among the ruins. The hunters marveled, drawn to its sharp edges and eerie aura. The captain observed the weapon, sensing its value. Its craftsmanship hinted at hidden power, but caution lingered. Treasures like this often concealed deadly traps. Yangjun stepped forward, confident in his strength. The captain's warning echoed. Yangjun gripped the sword's handle, ignoring the captain's warning. Trusting his C-rank tank abilities, he believed any trap wouldn't be a threat. Yangjun's face froze in shock as the floor beneath him turned red, revealing spikes and eerie eyes. He pulled the sword cautiously. The captain sighed in relief, assuming there were no traps. Yangjun's eyes glowed with hostility as he snarled, gripping the sword tightly. The captain scolded him to be more careful, but in an instant Yangjun slashed his sword at the captain. The other hunters froze in shock as Yangjun's voice echoed coldly, declaring, "Who dares covet the Fang Monarch's sword?" The miners noticed something unusual, their eyes narrowing in confusion. Nearby, 3 shadow goblins diligently mined crystals, their dark forms moving in perfect sync. Dokyun watched in disbelief, unable to comprehend how Suho possessed such a summoning skill. Dokyun's mind raced, recalling that most summoners could only control 1 or 2 summons at best. Summoning 3 creatures was already unusual. Combined with the talking ghost-like figure, it made 4. The realization left him even more bewildered. Wasn't Suho's power abnormal? Suho reflected that the limit was supposed to be only 3. Although shadow extraction required corpses, using goblin corpses from the shadow dungeon made things more convenient. They carried out simple tasks without complaint. Suho said that shadow extraction was indeed a useful skill, just as Beru had mentioned. Beru replied with a pout, asking not to be praised while doing such dirty work. Then he reminded Suho that entering the dungeon was supposed to be for leveling up, not just labor work. According to Hunter Association rules, E-rank hunters couldn't enter dungeons alone. Since the ranking system was still new, the measurement devices often had errors. Suho thought of leveling up and getting his remeasurement done. He also remembered their 3rd mission, recovering Beru's lost power. Beru's eyes lit up, realizing what Suho meant. Suho recalled that eating something with magic power could help Beru recover. Even the magic stone fragments scattered on the ground contained magic power. Beru's eyes widened, realizing Suho's intentions. Without hesitation, Suho ordered him to quietly pick up the stones and eat them. Beru reluctantly began munching on the magic stones. Beru suddenly shuddered, his body reacting to a powerful presence nearby. Suho noticed the shift, his eyes narrowing. Beru's voice echoed in Suho's mind, heavy with urgency. The presence of a monarch had appeared. Suho's heart raced, his mind flashing to one possibility, his father. Beru's eyes glowed dimly as he scanned the surroundings. It wasn't the monarch he once served. If it were, his power would have instantly returned to its peak. Instead, the lingering aura carried a different scent, one belonging to a beast monarch. A miner's ears perked up at the distant rumbling sound echoing through the tunnel. His eyes narrowed toward the source. That direction. It was undoubtedly the path where the raid party had ventured. From the shadowed depths of the tunnel, 3 crimson eyes flickered to life, piercing through the darkness with an ominous glow, silently watching the miners. The miners froze in shock as a beast emerged from the shadows, its red eyes glowing menacingly. Panic spread among them as they realized the danger. One miner, gripped by fear, raised his pickaxe in a desperate attempt to defend himself. The beast lunged forward, biting down on the pickaxe, snapping it like a twig. Terror filled the miner's face as he stumbled back, helpless. In that moment, Suho appeared, striking the beast with a powerful swing of his pickaxe. Without hesitation, Suho positioned himself between the miners and the beast, buying time for their escape. The miner, filled with gratitude, quickly turned and ran toward the tunnel exit. Suho locked eyes with the beast, its menacing presence filling the tunnel. The name floating above its head glowed orange, signaling its power. In his mind, Suho assessed the situation. The creature's strength seemed on par with the D rank. Mistburn he had fought back at the Korean Art University, a foe he was confident he could defeat on his own. But he wasn't alone. Behind him, Dokyun stood frozen, his presence adding a layer of uncertainty to the battle ahead. Suho glanced at Dokyun, silently offering him a chance to escape. But Dokyun's eyes reflected a newfound determination. Seeing Suho risking his life to protect others, Dokyun's guilt from the past resurfaced. This time, he refused to abandon someone fighting alone. Suho calmly requested Dokyun's assistance if things became dire. With a flick of his hand, 3 shadow goblins emerged, ready for battle. Reaching into his inventory, Suho summoned weapons salvaged from the shadow dungeon, far superior to a mere pickaxe. Dokyun watched in disbelief, his mind racing. The summoning skill Suho displayed was beyond ordinary, not only creatures but weapons as well. What kind of power did Suho truly possess? Suho propelled himself forward, his feet kicking off the ground as he dashed toward the beasts. With swift precision, he slashed through one steel-fanged lichen, its body collapsing instantly. Without losing momentum, he delivered another strike to a second lichen, cutting it down. A notification flickered before him. The steel-fanged lichen has been defeated. Dokyun watched in disbelief as Suho stood calmly, the goblin shadows cheering around him. With a single word, "Arise!" Suho commanded. The steel-fanged lichen's corpse trembled before its shadow detached, forming into a new dark soldier. Both Dokyun and the goblin shadows froze, their expressions filled with shock at the sight of Suho's mysterious power. Suho swiftly raised his sword, blocking the incoming strike from the lichen beast. At the same time, the newly summoned lichen shadow lunged forward, launching a counterattack against its former kind, defeated. Beru observed the scene with pride, his thoughts marveling at how quickly the young monarch adapted to combat using shadow powers. Suho, focused on the battle, realized that extraction and summoning required no mana. As his magical power increased, so would the number of extractions he could perform, eventually allowing him to create an entire shadow army. With a determined gaze, he prepared to add another soldier to his growing forces. Another notification appeared. The steel-fanged lichen had been defeated. Suho commanded, "Arise!" The lichen's corpse trembled before transforming into a shadow soldier, rising to join his ranks. The goblin shadows stared in disbelief at their new comrade. One goblin's eyes welled up with tears, its small body trembling, overwhelmed by the sight of their forces growing stronger. Suho commanded "Arise" once more, summoning another shadow soldier from the lichen's corpse. Dokyun watched in disbelief, his heart pounding. The overwhelming strength Suho displayed was far beyond what an E rank should possess, especially the power to command dead monsters. Suho's thoughts raced, realizing he got too carried away. Dokyun's suspicion grew, his mind turning. Could Suho be a false ranker? Someone who deliberately falsified their rank to hide their true strength? Suho's gaze shifted as a sudden notification flashed before his eyes. A quest window appeared, its chilling message filling his vision. Quest guide. Emergency quest. Defeat the enemy. An entity with murderous intent toward the player has been detected nearby. Secure your safety by defeating it. Suho's expression hardened, sensing the sinister presence lurking in the shadows. The air grew heavy, a sign that the real threat had finally revealed itself. Number of enemies to defeat: 1. Suho's mind raced as he processed the quest notification. He questioned the message. He had already eliminated all visible lichens. Could there be another enemy hidden nearby? Suddenly, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the tunnel. Dokyun's eyes lit up at the sight of a figure from the raid party. Relief washed over him as he assumed the man had survived the earlier attack. He began to speak, unaware of the danger lurking beneath the surface. Without warning, the soldier's sword swung down toward Dokyun. In a split second, Suho lunged forward, grabbing Dokyun and pulling him away, narrowly saving him from the lethal strike. Suho swiftly commanded his newly summoned wolf shadows to attack, their dark forms leaping toward the possessed hunter. His mind recalled the past encounter at the Korean Art University. The red name above the enemy signified a high level of danger. The strength he had experienced firsthand reminded him how formidable such opponents could be. Rationally, retreating with Dokyun would be the safest option. However, Suho's resolve hardened. He needed to confirm the nature of this enemy. He turned his thoughts to Baru, seeking reassurance. The response was clear. While the creature possessed considerable power, it was nowhere near the level of a monarch. Even so, Baru warned that this opponent was still far beyond Suho's current capabilities. Suho's gaze remained unwavering, a spark of determination flickering in his eyes. The system existed to aid his growth, offering quests only if victory was within reach. Despite Baru's cautious thoughts, Suho trusted the system's guidance. This battle wasn't just about survival. It was a stepping stone toward reuniting with his father. The possessed hunter relentlessly slashed through the shadow lichens, its eyes blazing with murderous intent. Each strike carved through the shadows, radiating overwhelming hostility. Suho's heart pounded, but his resolve remained firm. This red-named enemy stood as a wall, blocking his path to strength. Defeating it would mark another step forward, another step closer to his father. With unwavering determination, Suho braced himself for battle, ready to carve his own path to power. Baru watched Suho with deep admiration. Despite facing countless trials, the young monarch had never chosen to run away. Within Suho's still fragile appearance, Baru could see the faint shadow of the great monarch he once served. His sharp instincts quickly analyzed the enemy. The true form of the possessed hunter was the cursed sword controlling the host. If they severed the arm holding the blade, the enemy would lose its power, rendered immobile and helpless. The possessed hunter's burning eyes flared as it let out a piercing scream, launching a frenzied dart attack on the three lichen shadows. The lichens lunged forward, one of them sinking its fangs into the cursed sword, halting the enemy's movements. Suho's eyes widened in surprise as the lichens, who had fallen moments ago, stood back up after he infused them with mana. Their bodies regenerated as if nothing had happened. Baru observed the scene with pride. Shadow soldiers possessed astral forms. No matter how many times they were struck down, as long as the monarch supplied mana, they would rise again, endlessly. The shadow lichens relentlessly attacked the possessed soldier, but their strikes lacked power. Suho observed the struggle, questioning the strength of his soldiers. Baru calmly noted that the shadow's weakened state was due to the young monarch still developing mana. The possessed soldier's voice echoed, filled with disbelief as it questioned how. Suho's eyes widened in shock. The possessed said with disbelief as it questioned how such an insignificant pest could wield the shadow monarch's power. Suho's mind raced, stunned by the creature's speech. Baru's fury flared, his voice echoing with indignation at the insult toward the shadow monarch's bloodline. The possessed soldier's eyes burned brighter, realization dawning as it shouted with hatred, declaring the shadow monarch's bloodline as the enemy of the monarch of fangs. The possessed soldier lunged forward, its attack relentless. Suho smirked, ready to test its point strength. With ruler's authority, he flung a weapon from the ground, but the enemy effortlessly dodged. Observing its quick reaction, Suho's eyes shifted toward the scattered weapons on the floor, his mind already calculating his next move. The possessed soldier let out a piercing scream, its rage echoing through the tunnel. Suho's eyes narrowed, realizing that victory would come through sheer quantity. With ruler's authority, he manipulated multiple weapons from the ground, launching them all at once toward the enemy. Beru observed from the shadows, his thoughts admiring how Suho's natural aptitude for ruler's authority had been present since his infancy. The possessed soldier shattered the flying weapons with ease, its furious scream filling the air. Suho lunged forward, swinging his sword, but the enemy effortlessly broke his weapon with a single strike. Panic flickered in Suho's mind. If a goblin weapon couldn't withstand even one blow, it was as if he had no means to fight back. One attack could end him instantly. If the battle had dragged on, any chance of victory would slip away. The possessed soldier sneered, taunting Suho for running away and calling the Shadow Monarch a coward who hid behind his shadow soldiers. Suho's expression hardened at the insult, considering the remark a low blow. Though he kept his composure, doubt clouded his mind. The provocation was clear, but beneath his calm exterior, he wasn't confident he could face the enemy in direct combat. Frustration filled Suho's mind as he lamented his lack of strength. If only he possessed greater power, the battle might have been different. Seeking answers, he turned to Beru, questioning why, despite his seal being released, his former strength from climbing the tower had not returned. Beru explained that the young monarch's power had been sealed since infancy, and what Suho was experiencing now was merely the gradual return of his innate talent from that time. If Suho had fully regained that power, it would have been more than enough to challenge Itarim. However, the tower was neither a dream nor reality, merely a test to determine if he could handle his own talent. Whether he passed or not, the physical strength he possessed during the trial was destined to vanish afterward. Suho questioned if the entire experience in the tower had merely been a game. However, Beru assured him that the experience was far from useless. He urged Suho to recall the feelings and fighting spirit he had in the tower. Suho recalled his time in the tower, where he primarily fought with his fists. The thought of having gauntlets like those from back then crossed his mind. Beru's earlier words echoed. Shadow soldiers possessed astral forms, capable of recovery as long as mana was not supplied. Realizing he could alter Beru's form at will, Suho made his decision. He extended his hand and issued the command, "Arise." The possessed soldier sneered, dismissing the trick as futile. With a roar, it lunged toward Suho, sword raised to deliver a fatal blow. As the blade descended, the shadow lichens swiftly converged around Suho. The soldier's sword smashed down, but instead of cutting through flesh, it met a hardened surface. The possessed soldier's grin faded into shock. Suho had merged the lichen shadows into a massive shadow fist, blocking the attack. Suho's voice rang out, steady and confident. "Steel-fanged lichen. Seems like you're living up to your name." A notification appeared before Suho. Notice. Skill. Shadow extraction has leveled up. Skill. Shadow extraction level 2. Form change acquired. Requirement. Shadow authority. No mana consumption. Allows arbitrary transformation of shadow soldiers' forms. The possessed soldier lunged forward with another attack, its sword slashing through the air. Suho met the assault head-on, his shadow-forged gauntlets raised. With his fists clad in the steel-fanged lichen's form, Suho engaged in close-quarters combat, launching a barrage of punches while skillfully blocking the enemy's strikes. Beru observed from the shadows, his thoughts filled with astonishment. The young monarch had transformed shadow soldiers into weapons, an advanced technique that only those who transcended power could freely wield. Though Suho had only just begun to grasp shadow authority, still at the level of a newly hatched ant larva, he instinctively learned the next stage without any guidance. His combat instincts, sharpened through countless battles, combined with his natural aptitude for ruler's authority, revealed a glimpse of the overwhelming potential buried within him. Suho extended his hand, activating ruler's authority. The dagger behind the possessed soldier shot forward, piercing into its back, drawing a scream from the beast. The sudden attack diverted its attention, creating an opening. Seizing the moment, Suho dashed forward, his eyes burning with determination. His shadow-forged fists pummeled the possessed soldier relentlessly, each blow echoing through the tunnel. The rapid barrage left no room for counterattacks, as Suho's strikes rained down without mercy. With one final, powerful punch, the possessed soldier's body was sent crashing into the floor, its agonized screams filling the cavern as cracks spread beneath its weight. Suho extended his hand once more, harnessing ruler's authority to command the scattered weapons on the floor. Axes, swords, and blades trembled before rising into the air, their edges glinting in the dim light. With a flick of his will, the weapons launched toward the possessed soldier, slashing and piercing from all directions. Suho charged in tandem, wielding an axe to deliver a crushing blow, while the floating weapons continued their relentless assault. With one final blow, Suho's sword pierced through its body, delivering the finishing strike. Suho reflected on the battle, acknowledging his initial worries about facing a red-named enemy. However, the opponent had proven not to be unbeatable. Beru, unwavering in his loyalty, silently praised the young monarch's victory without a hint of doubt. Suho, sensing the insincerity, dismissed the flattery. Despite that, the battle had yielded something far more valuable, a new fighting technique harnessing his shadow powers. With the battle concluded, Suho's attention shifted toward the fallen soldier, ready to claim the rewards of his hard-fought victory. A notification appeared, signaling the completion of Suho's quest. The system prompted him to check his reward. Without hesitation, Suho confirmed. Another message followed, announcing the reward: Runestone Storm Slash. Notice, you have learned the skill Storm Slash. The system displayed the skill's details. Storm Slash, Level 1. Active skill, mana cost, 50. Effect: the power of the howling wind is imbued into the user's sword, enabling them to strike multiple enemies simultaneously. Suho's eyes gleamed as the realization settled in. A skill. Exactly the kind of reward he had wished for the most. His instincts immediately grasped the method to wield it. Shadow energy began to swirl around his hands as he prepared to test the newfound power. His gaze shifted to the weapon lying on the ground, contemplating which one to use. Within the weapon's dormant consciousness, a sinister voice echoed, the remnant will of its former master. It seethed with humiliation, cursing its defeat at the hands of the Shadow Monarch's descendant. Yet, even in defeat, its twisted nature remained. The weapon's will whispered, confident in its vengeance. The boundless greed of humans would be its salvation. The moment Suho laid hands on it, that greed would consume him. Oblivious to the weapon's lingering malice, Suho reached down and grasped it firmly. A notification appeared. Notice, you have obtained the item, Raken's Fang. Suho examined the weapon in his hand, its craftsmanship far surpassing the crude goblin weapons he had used before. Satisfaction flickered in his eyes as he gripped it tightly, feeling its weight. Within the blade, a faint, resentful will stirred, the lingering consciousness of the weapon itself. It writhed in disbelief, unable to comprehend that a mere human bearing the power of the Shadow Monarch could resist its dominion. Without hesitation, Suho focused his mind, eager to test the weapon alongside his newly acquired skill. A notification appeared before him. Blessing. Great Spellcaster Candiaru's Blessing. The message detailed the blessing bestowed by the great spellcaster Candiaru, a powerful enchantment granting him a body free from disease, poison, and any negative status effects. Under its influence, even sleep would drastically enhance his regenerative abilities, allowing him to recover at an accelerated rate. Suho gripped the sword tightly, his eyes fixed forward as he charged with focused intent. A surge of mana flowed through his body, activating the Storm Slash skill. With a powerful swing, the blade cut through the air, unleashing a howling gust that smashed into the ground. The impact shattered the earth beneath his feet, leaving a deep fissure in its wake. Assessing the aftermath, Suho noted the toll the skill had taken on his mana. Though its not destructive power impressed him, the high mana consumption posed a clear limitation. Meanwhile, Beru watched from the shadows, his voice echoing with discontent. To him, Suho's enthusiasm for the sword skill seemed far too reserved compared to the limitless potential of shadow extraction, an ability capable of wielding power hundreds, even thousands of times greater than any ordinary attack. Dokyun woke up, his head still spinning. Suho stood nearby, observing him. As Dokyun's eyes adjusted, confusion filled his face. Suho motioned toward the exit. When Dokyun noticed the corpse of the possessed hunter, shock washed over him, leaving him speechless. Outside the gate, Suho prepared to re-enter the dungeon, determined to search for any remaining survivors. Dokyun, still shaken, gave a small nod, silently agreeing to wait. Suho stood silently in front of the gate, his figure unwavering. Dokyun watched from behind, his thoughts racing. An E rank with a summoning skill, someone who should be insignificant in the minor leagues. How could Suho be so powerful? Yet none of that mattered now. What truly mattered was that Suho had saved everyone. The lichens bared their fangs, eyes burning with hostility. Suho lunged forward, his shadow gauntlets crashing into their bodies with relentless force. A notification appeared. You have defeated steel-fanged lichen. Another message followed. Notice. Level up. Suho scanned the surroundings, sensing the presence of numerous wolf-type magic beasts still lurking inside. Baru urged him to seize the remaining beasts for experience. Suho's gaze shifted to his weapon, noticing its attacks had become noticeably weaker. The sword spirit sneered, refusing cooperation. Item: Raken's Fang. Type: Sword. Attack: 30. +5 stat correction. Effect: The spirit of Raken dwells within this sword, and those of low status may have their bodies taken if they wield it. Baru criticized the ability for targeting weaker opponents. The sword defended itself, arguing no hunter targets prey stronger than itself. Baru pointed out that the young monarch had defeated a much stronger opponent. Suho found the situation chaotic, witnessing both a talking insect and a talking sword. Suho approached the crystal cart, stepping into the sanctuary of the Monarch of Fangs. His gaze not fell upon the hunter's lifeless corpses, his eyes reflecting a mix of sorrow and anger. Baru acknowledged their deaths, while the sword coldly justified the massacre, claiming its duty was to eliminate all intruders who dared to trespass the sanctuary. Suho picked up the sword and pierced it into the floor, silencing it with a stern command to remain quiet for a moment. Suho observed the corpses and wondered if shadow extraction could be used on humans. Baru explained that any corpse, regardless of its kind, could be turned into a shadow soldier. Suho extended his hand toward the corpse, but withdrew it, choosing to pick up the body instead. Baru questioned why he wouldn't perform shadow extraction. Suho responded, feeling conflicted, that forcing them to fight even after death would be another form of punishment. Baru called out to him softly. Suho shifted the conversation, asking if this place was truly the sanctuary of a monarch. Baru confirmed. Suho's gaze hardened as he questioned whether his father, also a monarch, had slain others like him, and if those monarchs were connected to Itarim as well. Baru explained that Itarim could be seen as his king's current enemy, while the monarchs were his previous adversaries. He revealed there were 9 monarchs in total. Suho's father, the great Sung Jinwoo, was the king of the dead, the monarch of shadow. Others included the king of beasts, the monarch of fangs, the queen of insects, the monarch of plagues, the king of monstrous humanoids, the monarch of the iron body, the king of demons, the monarch of white flames, the king of giants, the monarch of the beginning, the king of snowfolk, the monarch of frost, the king of demonic specters, the monarch of transfiguration, and finally, the king of berserk dragons, the monarch of destruction. Though each monarch possessed unimaginable power, the 8 who invaded Earth had all perished at the hands of his king. Suho's eyes widened in disbelief upon hearing Baru's explanation. The sword's voice echoed in his mind, filled with hatred. The weapon confirmed that the Monarch of Shadow was the enemy who had slain its master, the Monarch of Fangs. It growled, declaring that if its strength had been untarnished, it would have ripped Suho to pieces and fed him to the wolves. Suho's expression remained calm as he responded, understanding the sword's resentment. He had reasoned that his father must have fought the other monarchs to protect the earth, just as the sword had defended the sanctuary from intruders. Both sides had acted to protect what they cherished. However, one thought troubled Suho: the sword's blind hostility toward him solely because he was the blood of the Shadow Monarch. If the weapon's mission was to protect the sanctuary, wasn't it foolish to act hostile toward the one who had defeated the Monarch of Fangs? Suho declared his desire to reunite with his parents, separated by the outer-world invaders. He resolved to wield any power necessary to reach his goal. Acknowledging that the sanctuary wouldn't be spared from Itarim's invasion, he proposed an alliance. The sword's spirit wavered, conflicted by the thought of cooperating with the Shadow Monarch's descendant. Suho gripped the sword firmly, proposing a united front between Shadow and Fang. On a cloudy day in town, Dokyun sat for an interview. The interviewer asked him to share the details of the full strike squad wipeout that occurred in the D-rank dungeon the previous day. As the sole survivor of the incident, Dokyun replied with determination, ready to reveal everything. Dokyun believed that even as an E-rank, Suho's treatment would improve if he received recognition. It was his chance to repay his debt. That evening, an article surfaced on the internet detailing an incident where an E-rank hunter single-handedly rescued hunters in a dungeon. The article included interviews from witnesses who saw the heroic hunter charging at magic beasts to save lives, along with testimonies from the countless people he had saved. In the office, two men discussed recruiting porters. One suggested reinforcing the pickup team with more E-rank hunters. Lee Young-ho from the Black Tortoise Guide Management Team 2 reviewed a candidate. The report detailed an E-rank hunter who evacuated the mining team in a D-rank dungeon, fought magic beasts, and carried out wounded strike squad hunters. Surprised by the feat, Young-ho saw an opportunity. A hero rising from E-rank would make a killer headline. Without hesitation, he decided to contact the hunter immediately. The man dropped his phone in shock as Lee Young-ho asked if Hunter Sung Suho had replied to the Black Tortoise Guild's invitation. The offer, extended to an E-rank hunter, seemed like a great opportunity. However, the man reported that Suho had declined, stating he wasn't planning to join any guild. Young-ho, bewildered, questioned how a new E-rank hunter could refuse an offer from such a prestigious guild. The man reassured him that Suho might call back once he realized how unreasonable it was to remain without a guild. Suho checked his phone, sighing at the flood of offers from various guilds since returning from the dungeon. Beru observed that many coveted Suho's talent. However, Suho noticed all the offers were for collector or porter roles, leaving him puzzled by the sudden interest. Suho disregarded the offers, aware that joining a guild would hinder his growth through the leveling system. Shifting his focus, he fixed his eyes on Raken's Fang, ready to resume their silent exchange. Suho gripped the sword, proposing an alliance between Shadow and Fang. The sword's thoughts wavered at the bold suggestion, finding it absurd yet intriguing. After a moment of silence, the sword agreed with one condition: to be taken to another sanctuary of the Monarch of Fangs. Suho asked the sword if it knew the sanctuary's location. The sword confidently declared its ability to sense the Monarch of Fang's sanctuary, regardless of distance. However, it revealed the gate leading there had already disappeared, likely due to what humans referred to as a dungeon break. Suho deduced that the sanctuary must have transformed into a field-type dungeon. A field-type dungeon refers to land that has become deserted due to a dungeon break occurring at an abandoned gate where monsters now inhabit the area. Suho sent a message to his uncle, preparing to head toward the location where the sanctuary was, hidden. Evening settled over the mountains, casting shadows on the restricted area enclosed by a metal gate. Suho stood before it, aware that the place was occupied by the Hyena Guild, a group notorious for harboring gangsters. Trespassing on private property was illegal, and the area was crawling with ruffians. Beru suggested that leveling up would be a better option than listening to the sword. Suho ignored him, preparing to enter. He cloaked the surveillance camera with his aura before, delivering a powerful punch, destroying it without hesitation. With no evidence left behind, Baru couldn't help but notice how much Suho resembled the monarch in his decisive actions. Suho entered the place and halted, noticing the thick fog surrounding the area. Baru explained that the fog was magic from outer space, capable of breaking dimensional barriers and generating rifts in the world. The sanctuary he once guarded had wandered through those rifts, connecting to Earth. The beings from outer space were drilling massive holes in the dimension to send their troops in, as the stronger their magic power, the more they were affected by dimensional movement, just like Baru. Suho processed the information, realizing that the stronger beings would take time to arrive. He resolved to use the opportunity to level up. As he stood ready, monsters emerged from the fog, razor-clawed Bariga and Black Shadow Razan, slowly approaching him. The sword anticipated its chance to display its power, but Suho dismissed the idea of wielding it. As the monster lunged, Suho countered with a swift punch. Drawing from the fundamentals he learned in the tutorial, he used Ruler's authority for mid to long-range support, combined various weapons to disrupt enemies. With Storm Slash activated, he unleashed a devastating attack. By acquiring tools through shadow extraction, Suho established his new fighting style. Baru praised Suho's prowess, calling it outstanding. The sword observed in disbelief, realizing the true power of the Shadow Monarch's bloodline. The more enemies Suho faced, the longer the battle stretched, only for him to grow stronger by raising those he defeated. At this rate, the Daunt Sword feared their side would inevitably lose the war. Suho commanded Arise, summoning 5 Shadow Soldiers, his current limit after boosting his intelligence stats. Baru remarked that the number was nothing compared to the tens of millions of soldiers the Great Monarch once commanded. Without hesitation, Suho punched Baru, silencing him. In the middle of the forest, the sword guided Suho to the location where the gate to the sanctuary once stood. Suho noticed people still lingering at the late hour, finding it unusual. Baru remarked that some people strive to survive in their own ways. Suho's eyes widened, questioning why they would choose to hunt magic beasts at night when daylight offered better chances for survival. A truck arrived and the hunters opened the gate. Suho watched in silence as people with blindfolds and tied hands were forced out. One man grabbed a girl's face, examining her cruelly. Baru warned against taking action, reminding Suho of their trespassing. However, before Baru could finish, Suho had already vanished. The sword observed, acknowledging that Suho had already made his move. His father, a relentless violent crimes detective. His grandfather, a legendary firefighter. And the 21-year-old Sung Suho, who grew up watching them, now walking his own path. The man holding the girl's face turned, but it was too late. Suho had already leaped into action, a habit inherited from his family, to act first whenever they witnessed injustice.